Good morning again. I would like to take this opportunity to thank management for giving us this chance to commemorate the very first ever World Radiotherapy Awareness Day, which is going to be happening on Sunday, the 7th of September. So the theme for this global celebration is One Voice for Radiotherapy. But what is radiotherapy in the first place? This is a kind of cancer treatment where we use X-rays. So the same way you use X-rays to take pictures of the human body or to perform scans, you can use X-rays for treatment. But the difference is that the X-rays we use for radiotherapy have very high energy and so can damage cancer cells. So if you look at this illustration, it shows a radiotherapy machine and a patient that's getting treatment for breast cancer. And we can see the beam of X-rays that are directed towards the affected breast. So radiotherapy can be used both to cure cancer as well as to control patient symptoms like pain or bleeding. And there are different terminologies we use in radiotherapy, like teletherapy or brachytherapy. Teletherapy basically means the source of the X-ray is at a certain distance from the patient, as we see on this illustration. There is a distance between the source of X-rays and the patient, while brachytherapy means the source of the X-rays in very close proximity to the cancer cells. So this is an illustration of a modern radiotherapy machine. We can see the couch where the patient lies, and then the head of the machine where the beam of X-rays stream out from, and it's focused to where the cancer is. And then we have an older, outdated machine known as the cobalt machine. This was first designed in the 1950s. The challenge with the cobalt machine is that it's not as effective as the linear accelerator, and it has a lot of side effects, but unfortunately, this is what a lot of African countries still have. And then we have the brachytherapy machine. You can see the wires that are attached to the machine. These wires are then inserted directly into the cancer. And this brings the source of the X-ray in close proximity to the cancer cells. But why is radiotherapy important? This is because 50% of patients with cancer will need radiotherapy at some point. But in our setting, I think that percentage goes up to 70% because a lot of our patients present very late. And for the patients who get radiotherapy, it contributes an extra 50% improvement in their overall survival. And that's why the WHO recommends that every country should have a minimum of 1.5 radiotherapy machines for every million inhabitants, but ideally 4 units per million inhabitants. Unfortunately, there are over 200 million people in the world who live in a country with no radiotherapy access. So this map illustrates the global distribution of radiotherapy services. And the countries in green are the ones with the best availability of radiotherapy, having somewhere between 1 radiotherapy machine for every 500 inhabitants. While the countries in red are the ones where you don't have any radiotherapy access. And you see where the majority of those countries in red are, right here in Africa. So let's take America as an example. If you remember those WHO recommendations, which states every country should have a minimum of 1.5 machines per million and 4 units per million ideally. America has a population of about 350 million. So if you consider that mathematics, it means they need a minimum of 525 machines, but ideally 1,400 machines. Actually, America has over 2,000 radiotherapy centers and more than 4,000 radiotherapy machines, giving them an average of 13 machines per million. So they far exceed the WHO requirement. And that's why they even have radiotherapy access to their pets and to their animals. So let's look at Africa. Africa has an estimated population of 1.5 billion, and still considering the maths, they need a minimum of 2,250 machines, but ideally 600 machines. Unfortunately, there are only 418 machines on the African continent. Most of them are the outdated cobalt machines that I showed you, and 60% of these are concentrated in South Africa, Egypt, and Algeria, leaving 29 African countries with no radiotherapy access. Let's come home to Cameroon. With an estimated population of 29 million, we should have a minimum of 44 machines, but ideally 116. Unfortunately, we have just 2 machines, one of which is a privately owned LINAC machine that is very expensive for the average patient, and one is a cobalt machine in a government hospital that is always broken and barely functional, and we don't have any brachytherapy. Now it's estimated that one machine can safely treat only 500 patients each year. But in Cameroon, we have 26,000 new cancer cases every year. And considering that 50 to 70% of patients need radiotherapy, it means 13,000 to 18,000 patients in Cameroon need radiotherapy each year. And if we assume that both machines are functioning optimally, it means only about 1,000 patients in Cameroon are getting treated with radiotherapy, leaving more than 95% of our patients who need radiotherapy but cannot have it. So if we consider all of this, it means we are in a very serious crisis situation with regards to access to radiotherapy. Our patients are dying from lack of access. And so we must raise our voices for urgent action, because if we stay quiet, then we will suffer quietly. So we need to raise our voices for affordable, safe, and good quality radiotherapy. But all hope is not lost, because at least in our hospital, we are in the process of developing a radiotherapy unit. It's taking a little bit of a while, but we are really looking towards the moment where we'll be fully functional and treating patients. But as we build, we need to understand what it takes to run a successful department. We need a solid radiotherapy team, which is made up of the administration, the radiation oncologists, the medical physicists, the radiation therapists, the engineers, and oncology nurses. And I would like to go through a few of these. So the radiation oncologist is a doctor who has specialized in radiotherapy, and his main function is to determine if a patient needs radiotherapy and to propose a treatment plan. While the radiation therapist is the person who actually manipulates the machine to administer radiotherapy to the patient. And to qualify as a radiation therapist, you need a minimum of A levels in sciences. And then if you go through the university, you spend 4 years to obtain a BSc in radiation therapy. Otherwise, you can go in as a radiographer and have hands-on training in a department that offers radiotherapy. While the medical physicist is the one who ensures that the machine is functioning optimally and safely. Sorry. So he ensures that the machine is functioning optimally and safely so that we are not overdosing the patient or underdosing the patient. And to qualify as a medical physicist, you need a BSc in general physics. And then you go to the university to spend 2 years and obtain a master's to become a medical physicist. And the last and most important is the administration, and this is where I want to stress. Now, one of the worst things that can happen to a patient who is getting treatment with radiotherapy is for them to start treatment and then it's interrupted. Once that happens, it's almost like waking up a sleeping lion, because that cancer is going to grow wild. So you want to do everything possible to ensure that the machine is always functional. And the easiest way to do this is to make sure that you engage in a maintenance contract. But this is where a lot of radiotherapy departments in Africa have failed, because we do not have a maintenance culture, and administrations are reluctant to pay for maintenance contracts. But once the machine breaks down and you have to repair it yourself, you really wish you had a maintenance contract. And that's why, in terms of administration, we want an administration that is supportive. We want an administration that is proactive and not reactive, who anticipates trouble and puts in preventative measures, not waiting for trouble to happen, and then you start panicking. And we want an administration who understands the importance of having a maintenance contract. And so we want to thank you for supporting the World Radiotherapy Awareness Day. But like I said, if we keep quiet, we will suffer quietly. So I would like to engage us in a little bit of an exercise. We're going to raise our voices now. And I want you to raise your voice like you're already disgusted by what is happening. So I'm going to illustrate what we're going to do. I'm going to go through the main theme and then the sub-themes. And all I want you to do is to raise your hand and raise your voice and just say one voice. Do you get me? So I'm going to give you an example. If I say one voice for radiotherapy, you say one voice, but you say it like you're really angry about the situation. Okay? And then I'll say one voice for every patient to have access to modern radiotherapy. And you say one voice. You say it with some meaning. Okay? Can we do that? Okay. One voice for radiotherapy.
One voice.
One voice for every patient to have access to modern radiotherapy.
One voice.
One voice for curing cancer and easing suffering with radiotherapy.
One voice.
One voice for raising awareness of radiotherapy as a safe, effective, and advanced treatment.
One voice.
One voice for a well-educated and skilled radiotherapy workforce.
One voice.
One voice for making lasting change for cost-effective global cancer control through radiotherapy.
One voice.
Put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you very much. So you can scan this QR code. You can also participate through the website and through social media. We're going to share some soft copies of the messages on the MBH news. You can post it on your WhatsApp, on your Facebook, just to raise awareness. Like I said, if you keep quiet, we will all suffer quietly. Thank you very much.